Dissociation of sensibility by T.S.Eliot. The term dissociation of sensibility was introduced by T.S.Eliot in his famous essay The Metaphysical Poets. Eliot used this phrase to explain a major change that occurred in English poetry after the 17th century. Dissociation of sensibility means a split or separation between thought and feeling in poetry. In other words, poets after the 17th century could no longer think and feel simultaneously in a unified way. Their poetry became either too intellectual, full of reasoning, or too emotional without intellectual depth. Eliot believed that earlier poets, especially the metaphysical poets like John Donne, George Herbert, and Andrew Marvell, had a unified sensibility. They could combine emotion and intellect. Their poetry expressed deep feelings with intellectual precision. For example, Donne's poems join passion, logic, and philosophy naturally. According to Eliot, after John Milton and John Dryden, this unity was lost. Poets of the late 17th and 18th centuries began to separate reason from emotion. As a result, poetry became more rational and formal, but less emotional and spontaneous. Eliot believed this dissociation weakened English poetry for many centuries. The poetry after this period lacked the fusion of intellect and emotion. It became artificial, either too sentimental or too analytical. Eliot saw this as one of the main reasons why modern poetry needed renewal. Unification of sensibility by T.S. Eliot. Unification of sensibility is the ideal condition of a poet's mind in which thought and feeling work together naturally. A poet with unified sensibility can feel his ideas and think his emotions. And Eliot admired John Donne and other metaphysical poets because they possessed this unified sensibility. They could mix philosophical reasoning, emotion, and vivid imagery seamlessly. Their poems expressed complex ideas through emotional intensity. Later poets like Milton, Dryden, and Pope wrote poetry that was intellectual but emotionally dry. They could not unite emotion and thought, hence their sensibility was dissociated. Eliot believed modern poets should regain the unification that existed in Donne's time. Through his own poetry like The Wasteland, Eliot tried to restore unity between intellectual, emotion, and experience. He wanted modern poetry to reflect the complex feelings of modern life but with artistic control and intelligence. And he believed that modern poetry should strive to recover the unification of sensibility. The poet's task is to bring emotion and intellect together to reflect the complex reality of human experience. Thanks for watching.